Love our country and love your children as much as I know that you do. Stand and speak and vote your conscience. Vote for candidates up and down the ticket who you trust to defend our freedom and to be faithful to the Constitution. I appreciate the enthusiasm of the New York delegation.
But then Mr. Trump emerged from the side rafters with
Ted Cruz, in that moment, was getting booed. Now, why was Ted Cruz getting booed? Ted Cruz was getting booed because he wouldn't endorse Trump. If you notice, he gave the speech, vote your conscience. I know you love your kids. Exit. And people were angry and pissed, to put it mildly, and was booing him at this convention. Now, think back. Ted Cruz was the last man on the wall. He was the last man on the Republican Party that was trying to hold back the night that was Donald Trump for subsuming the party whole. And Ted Cruz couldn't do it. But think about everything that was taking place back in 2016 when Ted Cruz was in that race. Think back. What was Donald Trump saying about Ted Cruz? He was calling him Lying Ted. It was that, meaning he gave him a nickname. But it went beyond that. It went to like degrading attacks on Ted Cruz. And the saddest thing that you've ever seen in politics, I'm going to show you. Chris Cuomo, CNN's Chris Cuomo, gets into a back and forth with Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz invokes his brother, which seems to piss Chris Cuomo off, in which case Chris Cuomo brings up the ghost of Christmas past, his run with Donald Trump, and the infinite indignity that took place in that race. It is the funniest thing that you have ever seen in your life, and Ted Cruz just so happens to be at the butt of that joke. And Chris Cuomo was not above bringing that into the conversation when the two were talking. It is absolutely funny. And it was so funny, I was like, I have to do this video tonight. So, welcome to the Soapbox. You're going to love this. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. You got Soapbox After Dark. If you guys enjoy this content, like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. I like to say this content is brought to you by you, and I appreciate you for allowing me to do it. You guys probably know at this point, I haven't been here as much as I typically am here. There was medical issues that took place a week or so ago, and like I said, I've been getting my bearings straight in order to get the show back up and running. And so this is what that is. Well, like I said, Soapbox After Dark. Ted Cruz, a swamp creature, smarmy. He talks and it oozes something off of him that is just grotesque and repulsive. To me, a lot of people, and clearly he wasn't enough to hold back the night in order to beat Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is indeed your president. If it was Ted Cruz versus Hillary Clinton, then you have Ted Cruz to be your president. Take a look at this. Chris Cuomo is in a back and forth with Ted Cruz. They're pissed off at each other. That's not all that uncommon, right? But listen to where Chris Cuomo goes in order to go after Cruz. And it's, to put it as a zinger, is an understatement, but it is absolutely rough. Especially if you know the context to which Chris Cuomo was talking about. And I just so happen, I'm going to give you that context so you can understand it as much as I enjoy this. So you can enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying it.
To get on it when you have power.
How about tell your brother to get on it?
My brother will stand for his own record. Why don't you talk to the president the way you talk to my brother, Ted? You afraid of him? You think he'll smack you down at home?
Oh,
is that what it is?
I'm
like he shut you up in the primary?
Cuomos. You guys
not
are
the
really
Cuomos.
tough.
I'm talking about the president. My brother's not the president. I'm talking about the president, the one who called you a liar, the one who said your wife was ugly. That guy, you know, the
one who said your wife was ugly. Now, that's the point. That's the point. Because you need to understand why that's so funny. For Chris Cuomo to go there, that's a pretty low blow, if I'm being honest. Not saying it's off the rails, because I am sitting here laughing at it at this very moment. But you must understand the context. In 2016, when Ted Cruz was running against Donald Trump leveled all sorts of attacks on Ted Cruz. I think he said his dad helped kill Kennedy. He called his wife ugly, called him lying Ted constantly. And in spite of all of that, Ted Cruz got to the point where he refused to back Trump. And he was obstinate about it. I'm going to beat you, all of this other stuff. And despite all of the attacks that's leveled, everything that took place in regards to Trump battering him as a man, battering him even from the standpoint of a man able to defend his wife, what did Ted Cruz do at the end? How was he bent to form in the end? It's the funniest part of it all. Let's take a go to memory lane for a moment. This is right here, Donald Trump's tweet comparing Ted Cruz's wife to his wife. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Picture is worth 1,000 words. The point somehow being that Ted Cruz choosing a wife that is unattractive has something to do with Ted Cruz's ability to either do the job or something about him as a man. Attacking him as a man. Like, this goes beyond politics. This is me just, in a political way, hitting you just as a man. I'm going to dominate this. I'm going to be the alpha male, even in this situation. Let's keep going. Memory lane. Let's start here.
Is quite simple when it comes to Heidi Cruz. She is a Bush operative.
You know, his father was with Lee Harvey Oswald prior to Oswald being, shot. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. What is this, right prior to his being shot?
Oh, absolutely. I think we should move on. Where we should move to is the National Enquirer story that has reported that Ted Cruz has allegedly had affairs with at least 5 mistresses, including, you've been named, Amanda.
So spilling the beans.
Wait, stop right there for a moment. You heard that right. You heard that right. Ted Cruz has apparently had affairs with all of these mistresses, including you, Amanda, the woman who's up there in the box, talking right now. Let's keep going. I'm not finished. The TYT put this together, so shout out to them.
On Heidi Cruz simply means that her entire career has been spent working against everything Ted Cruz says that he stands for.
What was he doing with Lee Harvey Oswald shortly before the death, before the shooting? It's horrible.
If we're going to call Donald Trump's character into question, I would like Ted Cruz to issue a statement whether or not the National Enquirer story is true, that he has had affairs with many women, including you were named, Amanda. Will you denounce this story, or will you confirm it?
I don't get angry often. But you mess with my wife, you mess with my kids, that'll do it every time. Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
So will you support him as the nominee?
I'm going to beat him.
Not so much. You didn't beat him. I don't get mad very often. But if you talk about my wife, even that didn't seem authentic. I mean, I have to be honest. Like, if you say something and we're like in this kind of political thing, and you're like attacking my wife like this, you're attacking my dad, you're attacking me as a man, saying I've been unfaithful to my wife to the tune of all of these different women, I'm going to feel some kind of way about that. And I may not necessarily let that go, and probably won't let that go because of the last point. The issue is you have a responsibility to your wife that goes beyond politics, right? I think that, but I'm in news. What does it mean when a person is in politics? And after you rag on somebody's wife so relentlessly in this way, will they bend to form? And what does it mean to bend to form? You have an audience that's booing him when he went out and wouldn't endorse Trump. And eventually, after wife being called ugly, after him being called a serial, sexual, habitual pervert, And then even going to the fact of his dad, Ted Cruz was bent to form. This is the funniest video that I've ever seen in my life. And I've saved this video in my save file after this happened back in 2016, 2015, whatever. And so when I saw Chris Cuomo say that, my first thought was, oh man, this video, I get the opportunity to show this video again. Look at what this is. Look at what this is. He called his wife ugly, and he's standing under a Trump-Pence sign. Trump and Pence. Listen to what Ted Cruz said. Listen to the language. This is how he's able to sleep at night. Listen to the way he cut this in political language.
Hi, this is Ted Cruz calling. I was calling to encourage you to come out and vote on Election Day. This election is critical for the direction of our country, and I urge you to come out and support freedom and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You can vote by absentee ballot, and if you need help getting an application for an absentee ballot, the Republican Party of Texas can help you with that, or you can vote in person. But I just wanted to encourage you to come out and vote. Thank you, and God bless you.
That is infinitely sad. That is infinitely sad. I love that video. God, I love that video so much. If you notice something, how he sleeps at night. Like, dude, he called your wife ugly. And you go out and phone bank for him. I was phone banking for freedom. I never said Trump and Pence. If you listen to this, he never says Trump and Pence. Listen to this call again. And again, when he's making this call, keep in mind, he did not want to do this. Everything in him was against this. And yet, here Ted Cruz is bent to form. When Chris Cuomo said, you're scared? You're scared? You think he's going to call your wife ugly again? Are you terrified? Because a scared man goes out, whether he's scared about his career, whether he, whatever he's scared of, that man pushed back fear and cowardice, throws his wife under the bus experientially, and phone banks for the man that called his wife ugly. Let's hear it again. He never says Trump and Pence. Now, Ted Cruz is a lawyer. And if you ever say, hey, buddy, you were out there phone banking for the guy that called your wife ugly, he was, I never did that. And I'm suing you for libel. And in court, he would say, I never said Trump or Pence. Come out for freedom. Lawyers. My mom said, I never want you to be a lawyer.
This is Ted Cruz calling. I was calling to encourage you to come out and vote on Election Day. This election is critical for the direction of our country, and I urge you to come out and support freedom and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You can vote by absentee ballot, and if you need help getting an application for an absentee ballot, the Republican Party of Texas can help you with that, or you can vote in person. But I just wanted to encourage you to come out and vote. Thank you, and God bless you.
Oh, I love this. God, you have no idea how much I love this video. I don't like Ted Cruz. When Ted Cruz was running in that race, I think it was last time, I forget who he was running against. Beto. Yeah, Beto. My wife and I were in Madrid. And yeah, that's right. And we were stuck in this little apartment or hotel because that was the only thing that was left. Meaning our money and everything else just kind of ended up where we got to the point where by the time we were able to make the arrangements to jump into the country, everything was booked. And the only thing that wasn't booked was this little hotel with something that we could afford. And it was a 1-bedroom, tiny, and we were supposed to be in there for 2 weeks. And oh man, do you know when you find out how much you love your wife is when you're stuck in a little box with her for 2 weeks? Oh man, like there's no space. It's like I'm trying to do videos. So I have a little corner and she's in bed trying to work. And it's like, I need you to be quiet. I'm trying to do videos. And it's like, dude, I'm doing my job here too. And so it's like, all right, I need to go out for a walk. Like, it's so close and so tight. It creates friction. And yet you make it. The grace of God, you make it. Look, my point is this. He did not want to do this. And yet, here he is. And I was watching this race when we were there, the Beto race. Beto was winning most of the night. And I was carrying it as long as we can carry it. Meaning we kept that show going because we were carrying the race and this other stuff. And it went on and on and on. And then slowly, Ted Cruz caught up, overtook him. And we were crushed that night. But the thing is, the video coverage, I think, went down almost after the race or just before the race was finished and everything else. We did everything we could to keep that thing going live before our time ran out. So I remember all of this. This is all within my political memory. And so when Chris Cuomo is ragging on Ted Cruz, all of this is what he's talking about. A man called your wife ugly. And that man was able to get you, call it political pressure, call it whatever you want to call it, but he bent you to form into standing and sitting under a Trump Pence sign. You don't have to say his name, Ted. We still know what happened. Low below Chris Cuomo, but funny as all hell. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks all. I may be back. I'm up, but I'm awake, so I'm thinking about doing shows. Let's make sure I didn't miss anyone. But yeah, this was so funny. I don't like Ted Cruz. And so there's a bit of, I don't know what you want to call it. it's like a ha-ha. And it's a, oh, dude, he called your wife ugly and you backed him anyway. And now, Chris, Cuomo is like, what, you're scared of him? You scared of him? You think he's going to beat you up? You think he's going to slap you down? And it's such an alpha male thing, right? Like, this guy saw you punked. And now he's bringing that up in the middle of a political interview. Oh, that's so low. That's so low. Is what it is, man. I'll leave it here because I do want to get to another video before it goes too long. Like, share, and subscribe. Progressive Girl, was Ted up for SCOTUS? Now that I don't know. I do not know. I don't know. Look, anybody Trump puts up for SCOTUS would be terrifying. They're all equally bad. Even if you manage to stop one, how do you stop the next? Democrats need to accept that they've lost this. And they need to reflect on the weakness in trying to put Merrick Garland in. Because at the very least, if you had Garland in, this would feel less bad. Your weakness, your failure, your inability to even get Merrick Garland across the finish line, Obama being too cool for school to try to push his pick. It's consequences. This is what they are. Accept it. Try to figure something else in regards to doing to minimize or mitigate what you're going to have to deal with dealing with the Supreme Court. Obamacare may get torched. Roe versus Wade may get torched. All of those things had everything to do with the weakness and the inability for your party to bring people together organically by backing politics that they like. Instead, they went with this notion that Hillary Clinton should be elected just because she should be elected. It's not a race, it's a coronation. And I'm sorry, that's the opposite of politics. And accepting that would have been the diminishment of democracy, not the, extension of it. It's not that I love Trump. I don't like Trump at all. I think he's a fucking ogre. By the same token, I'm stuck with the reality that the Democratic Party, if it indeed wanted to get that support, it would have represented the interests of the public instead of basically saying this is what we're going with. The public doesn't seem to apply, even in the coronations that they've had in these nomination ceremonies. I mean, it's fucking horrendous. You have 30 million people out of a job. You have 30 million people out of healthcare. Even when they signed Obamacare, there were over 20 million people without healthcare. And now, 10, 15 million more? And you got a man who's running basically saying, yeah, I don't back Medicare for all. 88% Democrats back it. I don't back Medicare for all. How do you get the fucking nerve to even not back it after you get 88%? And what does it mean to be in a particular political party where you have this much support, almost unanimous support for a particular policy? And now the Democrats in the House, Senate, or for that matter, the guy who's running for president backs it with over 30 million people without health care. No, they don't deserve your support. And no, I don't want Joe Biden to win under these conditions because I think this is just as much as a diminishment of democracy as Hillary Clinton if she would have won under the terms to which she was trying to run. That's my point of view. This is basically a hostage situation where nearly 80% of the people backing Biden are doing so because they're terrified of Trump. which Biden takes as, if you don't like me, go for the other guy. And any notion that a representative government where you're actually supposed to run with the notion of representing the interests of the public, meaning I'm going out to get those votes. This is an opposite. This is an inversion of politics. In fact of the matter is, lefties has accepted the stupid argument that somehow it is your responsibility to throw yourself at Joe Biden, but nothing in return. Just the fact that he's Biden and not Trump. Yeah, that's a diminishment of politics. And I'm sorry, that weakens your ability. That makes you that much more of a rational act to take advantage of whether you're black, lefties, or for the most part, the number of Hispanics that basically join in because they're terrified of the ogre of Trump. Satan himself can be on the other side of that. It is your responsibility as an American citizen to hold your political leaders accountable. And for that very fact that we have it for these last 40, 50 years, it is the exact reason right now that you end up with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. This race to the bottom that was inevitable. The very day you accept it, you have nowhere else to go. And all notions of accountability ran out of your political process. So, yeah. Yes, Roe v. Wade is on the chopping block. Obamacare is on the chopping block. Whatever the other thing that else that comes up is on the chopping block. It has nothing to do with what's right, wrong. It has everything to do with the political mission of get rid of this or do that from a right-wing approach. Understand, though, this is not from magic. This is from a weakness of a political party that failed to deal with the interests of its public. Long live Thomas Shankara, long live the revolution. Bob Loblong. Thank you, Bob. All right, I'm going to end this here because I'm bitching at this point. I've been very angry today, at the very least. I'm annoyed by lefties. That's all. It's this notion. It's like you have people who come on the show and they're like, it's like, we're revolutionaries, but we're voting for Biden. Then you're not a revolutionary. In fact, what you're doing is anti-politics. When the objective, the goal, every lefty at that point should have been made, the argument, is the Democratic Party really going to tank it to a monster as opposed to appropriating a policy with 88% support? Every lefty should have been repeating that. Every lefty news network should have been repeating that. Every lefty random, anytime you hit them, they should say that. Whether you're in some kind of organization, whether you're in some kind of, the Sunrise Movement, anything else, anytime somebody asks them, they should say that. And do that so often that people realize, whoa, so wait, there are like 30 million people that keep saying this randomly just in the streets? Yeah. Is it possible that we will lose their support for real if we don't back Medicare for all? It's like, well, to be honest, it has 88% support within the Democratic Party, and there's some people in the Democratic Party that's even asking questions of why we're not supporting. My point is, this was a year to create a resonance around a particular policy that regardless of what Sanders or AOC was supporting, your objective should have been to support those policies. And unfortunately, we've been so used to failing over 40 years and just acquiescing to whatever comes up. In a year where you win the policy argument, they did the same thing. It's depressing, demoralizing even. It's as if Sanders doesn't really know what politics is. And, believes that a war with the Democratic Party is basically not taking out his guns and just getting hit in the face. That's not politics. It's the opposite of politics. And it's time for the left to change in the way that they look at this stuff. If you have a majority of people that agree with your cause, then you need to utilize that majority of people to agree with your cause. And nothing that was going to take place from the standpoint of inside the Democratic Party was going to be able to do that. Your goal is to work with your power base. That's not inside the Democratic Party. They hate it as guts. They hate you. They want you for your votes, but they don't give a shit about anything else. It is your responsibility at some point to get tired of that. And until the left gets in their head that it is the responsibility of a candidate to get their votes, then nothing changes. This race to the bottom continues. And even if Joe Biden wins now, there'll be somebody else who's more competent on the Republican side that will beat him as the public and the audience gets sick and tired of even Joe Biden's policies. So this is what we got. I don't have any happy and joy for you. I have cynicism and reality. I have no idea what is going to happen in November. It's very possible that you get a constitutional fight between two parties, neither of which wants to acquiesce to the other. And there may be all sorts of hell that's wrought from that. And certain people, regardless of the result, don't accept it based on what Trump has been saying all of this time and influencing a certain degree of the population. So, yeah, I think this country is in for a rough ride. Maybe this country deserves a rough ride as a source of dose of fucking reality. I don't know. I know that right now there are two men that don't give a shit about this country. One just wants to be president because he wants to be president and is not altogether there mentally. And the other one, just as bad, if not worse. Both afraid of flagrant liars. Both. I guess my point is, from my standpoint, whether you win or lose entirely in the political space is just the space. That's all it is. It's one dimension, if you want to call it that. It's a dimension of thought. That dimension of thought can be impinged upon by other things that does not have to be directly within the context of that political space. It's like anything else. You have all sorts of things that may be able to intersect and impinge in some kind of way in regards to what you're trying to intersect. They need votes to get elected. You don't have money, but you got votes. How do I know you have votes? Is because you have so many people that consider themselves lefties and that agree with particular policies. And if those people just acknowledge that all of them agree and get to the point of saying, look, you can't win this without us, which gives us a certain degree of leverage within the context of all of this. African Americans can do this since they have like 90% support. African Americans never do this, which makes it bizarre and weird looking. We have 90% support and have no fucking influence. How fucking weird is that? Same thing with the left. All of this support and zero influence. And you look at it and say, how does that happen? How do you get that many people to have that much voting into a party and yet are so irrelevant at the exact same time? And the honest truth of it is because they never utilize it. The moment that Sanders loses, the correct reaction should have been, there's 40 million people out there. They need health care. You have my support as Bernie Sanders. I told you I was going to give it. But, I totally understand why all of those people out there wouldn't back you without representing their interests. The Sunrise Movement comes out, says the same thing. Lefties come out, say the same thing. Everybody says the same thing. Now, that's called a demand. The Democratic Party can say, yeah, screw that. We're not going to accept any demand. We're not going to set that precedent of accepting a demand for health care during a pandemic. We don't care if there's a pandemic. And they can tank it to Trump. They can lose it to Trump. How is that your fault? You're stating a demand that is in the best interest of the public, that the overwhelming majority of the public that agrees with you, and you're in the middle of a pandemic. You shouldn't even have to make that specific demand. They have the option of accepting or not. If they don't accept it, what does it mean? Think strongly about what I'm asking you. What does it mean? My point has been that you are no longer in a representative government. My point has been, prove me wrong by basically accepting that position and stating your demand. If the party accepts and acquiesces to it, Joe Biden's chances of winning that election are better. If they don't, and they tank it, that's not on you. I understand the consequences are shared. But at the very least, you have an honest representation of your government, which means you have no control within the context of your government. If you have 88% support for a particular policy in a party, and your party basically tells you to kick rocks, how, in any context, is that representative of anything? You need to think about this stuff. Your government is slid further and further and further to the right with monsters at this point. Think back to what your political leaders used to look like and ask yourself, why? Why are these things this fucking crazy? It's no accountability. Cops kill 1,000 people a year. 1% are prosecuted. Do you think that 1% prosecution out of 1,000 killings a year incentivizes them to think twice before they kill somebody? Or do you think they make the point of saying, hey, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And at the end of the day, if I murder somebody, 1% chance, I'll take that out. I take those odds. I'm saying your political institution is the same way. In the same way that you found all of these priests fucking kids at the Vatican or whatever. And you're like, whoa, how did that happen? There's no accountability in the process. Why wouldn't it happen? I'm making the point that your political instrument is the exact same way. And there needed to be times where the Democratic Party needed to lose over the years in order to get it across to them that this is a no-go, this is a fail, but needed to lose in an organized way where the public basically said no, not in a piecemeal, they just kind of lose and they just blame it on something else. It needed to be understood that the reason you lost is because of this. And until that happens, this model, if you have nowhere else to go, will still be acquiesced to. And 2020 should have been a year where that model was broken. So yeah, I'm slightly salty about that. I'll end this here. It's getting late. I'm going to say like, share, and subscribe. Thanks, all.